Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee was founded in 2014 by Ed and Courtney Lemmix alongside their son, Brett. The delicious DeLuna blends are a product of Ed's discerning palate for the finest coffee beans on the planet, and Brett's business acumen has them on the national radar for quality. Savor the simplicity of Graffiti Bridge. 100% Colombian beans roasted to a city roast for optimal flavor. Ed and Brett are both FSU alums and are extending a special offer to our listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit thelunacoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Promo code is WARCHANT15. Get you a 15% discount on some of this delicious midnight shift coffee. Proceeds go to help out the Rally Foundation, which gets money and funds to support childhood cancer research. Maybe even get some hot cocoa, Corey. It was a little nippy out there the other day here in Tallahassee. It's fall. It's arrived on time. Crazy.
It feels good, man. Thursday was the best weather day of the year, I would say. High 70s, perfect blue sky. Sadly, I don't want to go out. It's hard to go out and walk because I don't want to scare kids right now with my face.
This guy.
But either way, it's nice that everybody else got to enjoy that beautiful weather. This beautiful weather.
Yeah, so take advantage, everybody. It was great baseball weather. The boys of summer out there practicing fall ball baseball. I'm stoked. I'm ready. I think we should go ahead and book the trip to Omaha. Meat said one of these pitchers, this Jackson Baumeister kid, has got a fastball that reminds him of Max Scherzer's fastball. I got no clue what that even means, but I know that Max Scherzer's good, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it means it's fast.
Okay.
It's a fast fastball. Maybe a little rise to it or a sink to it. I'm
yeah.
not sure what goes with Scherzer, but it must be pretty good. I don't think Meat throws out those comparisons willy-nilly. So, yeah, they should be able to pitch again.
I've said it before. I am so comforted by the baseball program because I just feel like he's so competent. I feel he's probably one of the 5 best coaches. Maybe not. I know that's real for him not winning a national championship and only being a head coach for going into year 3 now. But just in terms of how dedicated he is to his job, how much he knows, being around the game, everything he calls out, his shots on guys like, oh, this Messick kid's going to be really good. Like he just keeps constantly hitting everything on it. So and as I was leaving Hauser on Thursday afternoon, I'm just like, the way I look at Florida State baseball is the way I think most everybody should embrace sport. Because I watch them, I root for them, and then when they lose, I do get sad. Remember how despondent I was, like after talking about when Florida had won the national title. Then you're like, yeah, but what'd you do the next day? I was like, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. Like whatever, you losers. Like life goes on, and it's fine. But I still root for it. I want it to happen. It's one of the greatest unwritten stories yet when they can finally win this national championship. Like, I don't let it consume me like I used to let football do, which wasn't a good thing. It wasn't a good thing. So, Omaha.
Does football consume you now?
Well, kind of, but it's a different mistress now, It's
Yes,
not the
it
fun
is.
mistress. It's not the one that you kind of run away and sneak away.
No, it's the Glenn Close mistress. Burning bunnies in the pot of water mistress, man. This is pretty disappointing what's happened to Florida State football. That's not anything new, though.
The climb, though, it begins with Louisville, 3:30 p.m. Let's go to 500 in ACC play. Apparently, shout out to our guy Irish O'Fell unearthing this statistic. Louisville 0-6 in their last 6 road games, including getting boat raced by Georgia Tech last year. So,
I was on Mark Ennis's show up in Louisville on Thursday, and he was talking about how when Florida State won at Louisville in 2018, that you remember that game?
Oh,
I think it was DJ Matthews that scored there at the end. That was the end for Petrino. Like the well had been poisoned and he could never come back from it. And I was thinking, was that the last time Florida State won a road game?
No. Odell, 19, Boston College.
Oh, Boston College. So they've won one road game going on 3 years now, right?
1920. Yeah, sounds right. Yeah. Well, we're not in full season yet. We're only
true, and we're not on the road this week. So what does it matter?
We're not. They are.
They're on the road. They got to come to Doak.
43,347 people going nuts.
It'll be interesting to see what this crowd is like, and I'm not going to blame anyone for not coming. But again, I get paid to go to the games. I don't have to pay. I don't have to put up the hotel, the ridiculous, nonsensical hotel fees to come watch this team. But it will be interesting to see if they can get anywhere close to a decent crowd, or if that's just because it's just such a bad look for the program, not for the fans. Again, the fans show up, give them something to come cheer for. But when you turn on a game and there's 28,000 people there, especially at a place like Florida State, it's noticeable and it's concerning. So hopefully some people show up.
You know who does show up are our subscribers on warchant.com's tribal council.
Amen.
We might have to rename this show Wake Up Warchant to just Renegade Express. It's consumed 3 shows this week. We got so many to get to, so let's get to it. Did we talk about our guy here with the I feel like we talked about our guy with the Jonathan Moxon and Lance Arbor Avatar Seminole Life, but we did talk about Randy Shannon. Yeah, I'm not all that. Randy Shannon doesn't entice me. And listening to the telecast the other week, man, Mark Jones and whoever was in the booth was like, "Oh, Randy Shannon, just a man, a decorated defensive coordinator with a pedigree of excellence." It's like, what? Man, Randy Shannon, the what's it off the bloom? The roses off the bloom. I mean, Randy Shannon,
you got that backwards. Yeah,
the bloom's off the rose.
Yeah,
like come on, man. I mean, he's for being an analyst. All right, cool. I'm all about that, but I don't know what he would do instantly. Let's pick up our spirits, courtesy of Dave in Bardstown, Kentucky, also known as Bourbon is Your Friend. I think this is a haiku, but you know about poetry better than I do, Corey. Offense, porous, matador defense, our spear is broken.
Yeah, I think that would be a haiku, right? It's not like a sonnet.
No, not a limerick. Not a limerick.
So yeah, I'm going to say that's a haiku. Yeah, the spirit is broken.
But that was my mood Saturday. By Monday, my spirits improved to, I'll take an offensive gimmicks, anything to help this team click. Now thrice we have played, no wins we have made, so now I'm thinking in limericks. Okay, there we go. That was a limerick.
Right. I don't think the first one was a limerick.
Correct.
So he went haiku limerick. Okay.
What a show
And
off.
Next week, how about a sonnet?
Okay.
Like a lovely sonnet, like an ode to Aslan.
An ode to beating Louisville. How about that? Corey, how would Jeff Cameron complete the following? There once was a lad from Nantucket. That's all he puts in his.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't. You know what that last word, 2 words would be. So no, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe people will be in a better mood on Sunday. Wouldn't that be nice to be able to celebrate a dub and a dub of a well-played offense, an offense putting up some points where you start to feel some confidence in what this coaching staff is doing.
I know. Imagine they just win all these games. Like, imagine if they only lose to Clemson from here on out, and we'll just laugh. Like, hey, remember in September, we're talking about firing this guy. Now we're going to the Mayo Bowl. Killing it.
Again, not to repeat an old and oft-used Corey phrase, but it is allowed, right, to rip off a couple wins in a row?
Yeah, absolutely.
To rip off. You see teams all, didn't Penn State last year start off like 0-5?
Something terrible.
I know it was a goofy season.
Forever. Yeah, it was bad.
And it was a goofy season, but they started off 0-5, and I don't know that they've lost since. You can't turn things around. Like a loss in September doesn't have to define your season. 3 losses doesn't. But right now, where this program is, it seems like that's been the case for 5 years in a row. Like a loss in September just steers the ship away from the shore. And hopefully at some point they can put together a winning streak. They're not gonna win 9 straight. We got that. But a 6-3 finish, a 7-2 finish, like teams have done it. And this isn't a tough conference.
Isn't that the bummer that, I was talking the other day about 10 wins and how tough it's to get 10 wins because you have Clemson and Florida looks to be back. And I know some people are getting optimistic and hopeful, and I don't want to throw cold water on it, but that maybe this is the beginning of Clemson kind of returning to earth. And that's the thing, right? Like if this team had 3 games in a row of playing the way they did against Notre Dame, I'd be sitting here talking on this Friday edition about like, man, I can't wait till we get to Clemson and we can maybe, plant our flag, plant the spirit,
Yeah.
like we're finally really back, because they look vulnerable, man. And it's a bummer that like Florida's on the rise, Miami continues to struggle, and now Clemson's on the dip, and you're like, all right, man, like this is right. Like here's the opportunity to jump back into everything, and we haven't been able to make it happen thus far. Just haven't been able to make it happen. But you are right. 0-5 start for Penn State, then they ripped off 4 straight, and now they're 3-0. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, Florida State, there you go. There's your blueprint.
Big Steve-O, 22. Good morning, gentlemen. Corey, glad to hear that you're doing well after your procedure. Tell him thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that.
I think one issue with the team is that they were playing too much with a sense of urgency. They want it too much. They want it. Didn't Norvell say something about them wanting it too much? In my opinion,
mean, every coach says that.
In my opinion, when you play like that, you play very tight and with the mindset that you have to make a big play, which leads to mistakes. See, I think it's the opposite, Big Steve. I think when you play tight, you play to not screw up as opposed to trying to make a play. Are we in an urgent state? Yeah, maybe, but these players' primary focus needs to be on taking it one play at a time. We don't have enough playmakers to rely on just believing one person is going to have that impact play. Think Jameis, Rashad. It needs to be a team effort in which everyone is doing their job and playing smart. A lot to ask, I know, trust me. I know I wrote this comment on Trench Talk, but the ACC is wide open. There's still a lot to play for. Do I believe we will win the ACC? Not at all. I am a logical thinker, but I do believe with the shape it's in, this team has the opportunities in front of themselves to build confidence against teams that we all thought were definite losses. Yeah, the way we have played, I still believe they are losses, but what if we can get hot at the right time? This is our opportunity. It is. It really is. I mean, beat Louisville. This is like a tourniquet game. Just stop the bleeding right now. I'll be there this weekend rooting for our Noles. It's been a while since I've made it down. Not sure what to expect, but regardless, I'll continue to root for our team. As always, go Noles!
Yeah, as far as the one play at a time, yeah, I mean, that's all you can do, right? And hopefully they are doing that. I know that's what they preach. But, yeah, you can't – Jimbo said that. They all say that when they lose, like the guys want it too much. And I'm not saying it's not true, but okay, that's like it's also like saying, did the Wake Forest kids just not care? They're just like, look, it's a pretty day. There's my mom on a blanket on the hill. This will be fun. I hope we win, but if we don't, no big deal. Like I think the Wake Forest kids care too, and they somehow are able to make plays on 3rd and 8. So maybe caring it, maybe they care just the right amount. I don't know how to quantify that, but at the end of the day, practice better, coach better, play better, and care. You do want them to care. I think that's it's better than the alternative for sure.
Play pop psychologist real quick. We do have so many questions, so I don't want to get too derailed. But I think there's certain fans like my brother and my friends that when Florida State loses, it's just like, hey, man, I think they might tilt a little bit negative, like, yeah, we just stink, yada, yada. And then there's guys, I think, like Big Steve-O, and then several of our subscribers. I mean, maybe it's because they obviously are so passionate, they pay to be able to interact with one another. But it's like this search for, well, maybe it's this, or it could be that. Whereas some people are just like, hey, man, it is what it is. We don't look good. I don't think we have the right players. Our coaches are a little bit, maybe not the right fit either. But like this search for maybe it's this kind of esoteric, cultural problem that's affecting everything. Is it like this? Do some people just need someone to kind of explain things away? It's not enough just to kind of just wash your hands of a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to coaches talking, like you don't want to say that your players don't care. They didn't study the game film. They didn't know the scouting report. So I think coaches say that stuff about they care too much because you can be tight. Like you can be too tight in a lot of sports. Like you especially like baseball. Like Brady sometimes puts way too much pressure on himself in the batter's box, and that can paralyze you. But football is a little bit different, right? I don't know that you want it too much. So what? You don't go make the tackle. You don't beat your block. You don't block the guy in front of you. Like I don't know that correspond it means as much in football, or it correlates as much in football. But as far as pop psychology, I have no idea, man. I've been trying to figure out. In fact, I think I told this story when I got my nose worked on. The guy that came in, Dave, that came in and talked to me, wanted to talk about football, Florida State football. he talked about why through 3 coaches are things still the same, seemingly. And, he doesn't know. He thinks that maybe, and this is just well, I shouldn't say this. This is his theory. He probably didn't want this out with the masses. But maybe there's still some hangover from the kind of kids that were here at the end of Jimbo, like who recruited those kids to come, who those kids were recruiting, and that still there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of entitlement or thinking you better than you are that permeates this program. I think we're on the last legs of that if that's there. But maybe there's something there. I don't know. I don't know how you explain 5 years of this. And I certainly don't think you should explain it by saying they just want it too badly, because the alternative is you got kids that don't care. And I feel like that's what we saw the last 2 years.
It's Daryl in Thomasville, North Carolina, Captain D_63. Wake up or wipe out. We're going to try to keep it uplifting. Daryl's got some angst in his voice, which is fine, but it's from Tuesday. I'm sure he's happy-go-lucky as he usually is right now. By and large, he's wondering what's going on with these 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, and shotgun sets, and not being more physical to point of attack. Coach Bowden, when we would get inside the 5, it was smash-mouth football. Why does it seem like we're wasting these opportunities on 3rd and 4th and short? Sign up for Warchant, drink your DeLuna coffee, hit the thumbs up button. Go Noles. By the way, Corey, I understand why you were having the show on Wednesday. Faith, family, football. Your son is number 1. Corey, I would never ask you to take time away from him. Keep being a great dad. Go Noles.
Hey, thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that, buddy. As far as the goal line stuff, the short yardage stuff, yeah, they got to figure something out. Like last year, it worked. If you look around the country, there aren't a ton of teams that get in the I formation at all anymore, period. Even in short yardage. But you should have, I'm a firm believer that you should have some of that. You should have a part of that in your package, and you should be able to do it well. And they don't. I think the counter they might say to you, Daryl, when you ask why you don't get, like a heavy bunch formation and get under center, is I think they would counter by saying, well, have you seen our offensive linemen? We can't just line up and push people off the ball. We kind of have to trick them to find a little lane here or there. To try to think that we're just going to line up with 2 tight ends, fullback and a halfback, and push guys out of the way to get 2 yards, especially by the goal line. They don't believe that happens. They don't believe they can do that. They don't believe they have the personnel for it. So, do they need some stuff under center? I truly believe they do. I think it could help, especially between the 20s. But once you get inside the 5, when it gets so tight and packed in, I don't know that it matters that much. It would help to have a quarterback that could run. That would be my offer to the offensive game plan when they get inside the 5, is maybe a quarterback draw, something to do with your quarterback getting into the end zone. Whether the quarterback is Jashawn Corbin, Jordan Travis, Chubba Purdy, Trayshawn Ward, McKenzie, but not McKenzie. But those other 4 guys, have one of those 4 guys take a snap and see if they can get in the end zone.
Hey folks, if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrencies but you're not sure where to get started, I understand. I don't really know either. But then Kraken.com showed up. Check out their app, the Kraken app. With Kraken, you can buy and sell over 50 of the most popular cryptos like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Ethereum, all on the go, mobile device, every single minute, every single day. Super easy to get started. You just got to download the app, you create an account, click, boom, boom, you can invest in minutes. And the great thing is you only need something like $10 to get started. So don't get scared when you hear that Bitcoin's over $40,000. You can get started with $10 on the Kraken app. Find out yourself why Kraken has been one of the highest rated places to buy cryptocurrencies for the last 10 years. Visit Kraken.com, Kraken, like the mythical animal, like the liquor that's kind of like Jägermeister. Kraken.com/Warchant to learn more, or just search Kraken in the App Store. FSU Robert. Wake up, fellas. Aside from the laundry list of really glaring, really obvious problems, has anybody been talking about how much slack Jermaine Johnson is picking up? I don't know why I'm doing it to myself, but been watching the replays, and he's quite literally out pursuing the entire linebacking core from sideline to sideline. P.S. Glad your procedure went smooth as possible, Corey. Wishing you a speedy and healthy recovery. My cap locks was on, and I'm too lazy to retype all this, or I guess I'm just screaming at you to get well soon.
Throwing in a curse word. I like it. Thank you very much. It did go well, apparently. Nose is still all banged up, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You live, you move on, sun came up.
What about that Jermaine Johnson guy? How about JJ?
Yeah, man, he's been awesome. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because of the start. And I feel bad for him. This certainly wasn't what he wanted to come down to, especially he's looking at his old team and what they're doing. Although, look, man, he would certainly be playing on that team, but he wouldn't be starring, and he'd be playing maybe half the snaps. So maybe for his individual reasons, this was the right move. So maybe for him, it's been a great move. I mean, he like Iris said or tweeted out the other day, he's got more tackles already this season than all the defensive ends combined last year. It's just crazy, or all the starting defensive ends combined, and he passed them in sacks a game ago. So he's had a great year. It's really cool to see guys like that. I just think if I'm a scout and if I'm an NFL GM, and I don't know if Jermaine Johnson's a first rounder or a fourth rounder or whatever, I think he'd be a second day pick. But if I'm thinking about, okay, who am I going to take with my the late second round pick? How about the kid that played his butt off for a bad football team? Like that just tells you something, right? It just tells you how you're wired. It tells you how you're wired. He's trying that hard in a game where they're already down by 3 scores, and he's still giving it his all and running sideline to sideline. When he's already put up numbers, he's already had a good game from a production standpoint. He's still trying as hard as he can. You can't talk enough about guys like that, and you would hope that it would permeate the team. And with that said, I didn't get the sense in that game on Saturday that they stopped trying. They did only give up the 1 touchdown. I know Wake Forest throttled back a lot, but they only gave up 1 touchdown in the second half. They didn't give up any in the fourth quarter. I thought they played hard at the end, and it has to help from a coaching standpoint to have somebody like Levin out there going sideline to sideline, getting 10 tackles a game as a defensive end. Man, that's great to put on film for somebody like Derek McClendon or Fuller to see, like, this is what effort is, man. This is effort on every play. They're learning from this guy, and hopefully it carries over into next year. Even when he's not here, he can still have an impact because they got to be around him for a full football season.
What was the quintessential no Moss, I quit game from Jimbo? Was it BC in 17 or was it Louisville 16? Or was it North Carolina 16?
That's a tie. No, they came back against North Carolina and actually took the lead with 20 seconds left and still somehow lost. The Louisville game, they straight up quit. But it was also Lamar Jackson. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to say you quit against – I mean, he's hard to tackle even if you're trying really hard. But they did not play well. Their offense was horrible. I would say the Boston College game was the game of Jimbo's era where you're like, man, that's when I really was like, I don't know if this is going to get right. There's something really wrong here. Like, they didn't even show up. They didn't care to be there. That was a nationally televised game on a Friday night, and they were okay getting embarrassed. And they were embarrassed. That was the one for me, even more so than the Louisville one.
Came back, beat the Gators later that year, though. What about Willie? Like, what was the Willie game where you're like, they quit?
Man, I thought, there was a few of them, right? I
don't know. That's the thing. I really don't. Like, Clemson, 18, but that's my thing. I don't know. When the game is over, usually you quit because the game's over. I understand it. Loser's mentality, perhaps. You guys don't like that. I understand. I don't really recall a lot of the games. I did not like the way they prepared for games. I don't like the way they, that was the stuff that bothered me more than, and then obviously the result of games did not help. But I didn't get that upset with the whole Stanford Samuels and whoever else. And was it Nooney? Who else got ejected for throwing punches?
No, it was the kid that was the linebacker that he was a running back, a linebacker, and now he's a running back again.
Saquandre?
Who was that? Yeah, I think he threw a punch on the sideline. Man, that was an awful look. Like, you're going to start fighting now when you're down by 50 points. That Clemson game, that was abysmal. The Syracuse game was really rough. But you're right. You don't know how much it is. Did they quit or are they just not good? Yeah. There's a combination of both with all that. But there were a few that first year with Willie where, they just got, every loss that first year other than the Miami loss was like by three or four touchdowns. So.
Yeah, NC State
hard
was
to know,
ugly.
buddy.
Notre Dame, Notre Dame was ugly. Maybe they quit Notre Dame. I don't even remember Notre Dame. That was the game that Ira was like sending tweeting on
in the
vacation
Florida game
photos.
that year. The Florida game that year was actually close at half, and they had a touchdown that was taken away because, of course, they lined up incorrectly. Yeah. And then that second half, that was a wrap. But they kind of just like, all right, the season's over, and you could tell. So there were a few sprinkled around. I just think but you can tell like when a team just isn't feeling like hitting, isn't feeling like making tackles, and they just want the game to be over with. I just really did not get that impression from Florida State on Saturday. We'll see what this Saturday brings. It's always a new, wonderful world of expectation and hope. But I think that I don't think that that's an issue yet with this team. Of just like, okay, not even quitting as much as, oh, yep, we're going to lose. Here we go. We're going to lose this game. That happened a lot with Willie, I thought. And it's hard to quantify that. I just didn't see that like, yep, this game's over from the Florida State team on Saturday when it clearly was. So maybe that's out of their system. We'll see. We still got 9 games left, including a couple that it might be out of hand early. So they'll get their chance to prove if they quit or not when they get down by 4 touchdowns. Well, maybe they won't. Again, they might win 9 in a row, guys.
They might. They could.
Crazier things have happened. Am I right, Aslan? Crazier things have happened. This is not, Florida might be the toughest test left on the schedule. We wouldn't have thought that at the beginning of the year. Miami, look, they're going to be an underdog probably to Miami, but that's a winnable game for sure. Miami isn't anything great. You saw what they did to Michigan State. Clemson put up 2 touchdowns against Georgia Tech. So there's a chance that they could be in some games and actually go steal some. And once you win that first one, you feel a little confidence. You win that second one. You get your blood flowing a little bit. Hey, let me take you back to a little basketball team a few years ago. Had a lot of expectations going into the season. Thought it was going to be a good year. They lose the opener, I think, at Pitt. Horrible loss. They come back home. They lose one of the most crushing losses in Florida State basketball history, a buzzer beater to current Atlanta Hawk Cam Reddish. They go out. Maybe it was after that game they go to Pitt and get beat. So I feel like they started the ACC like 0-3, and then they end up winning like 8 or 9 straight games in the ACC, including 5 or 6 on the road. So you get that one win. You get a little confidence. You start to believe, and maybe things turn around. Also get better quarterback play.
Random_John. Good morning, Corey and Aslan. 2 years ago, we were told we could not afford to keep Willie Taggart. Today, we're told we can't afford to get rid of Mike Norvell. Seems that we are then left with a pile of bad stuff in terms of coaching. Not only are we left with this pile, but we are required to bathe in it for the next year and a half at minimum. With no money for hiring competent coaches who can both be organized and have their message received, our coaches have no game plan and admit to being surprised with what little planning they do have. The defensive backs are allergic to defending. Our receivers cannot catch. Our top quarterbacks are wounded. And apparently the backups either have no talent or can't read the playbook. We truly are in a manure pile of situation. I thought Random_John was one of our more uplifting, positive posters.
It's been beaten out of them.
That's fair. If, for our coaching staff, we cannot afford more than a manure bath for the next year and a half, where does that leave our program long term? Corey has repeatedly said that we can never be Nebraska due to our location. Well, friends, it sure seems like our administration and our coaching staff has taken Corey's challenge with a hold my beer mentality. It seems they absolutely are doing their best to be Nebraska, or maybe even worse. So, how do we get out of this mess? What is the plan? Maybe share it with the coaches because they sure have no idea what to do. On a happier note, everybody drink the Luna coffee and eat Zaxby's. Their product is far superior than what golly, man, people get upset. I'm not reading that. I think I said it. We talked about it a few shows ago or whatever. Like, the plan is to probably get a really good defensive coordinator, and then hopefully you'll be better on that side of the ball. Now, again, I don't think defense has failed you in these losses. Jacksonville State, last play was not good, obviously. Should not have came down to that against Jacksonville State. I think they did good enough against Notre Dame, although as we're seeing, maybe Notre Dame's offense and Jack Cohn are not nearly as prolific as we had thought. But again, they were in that game. They got the ball back to the defense several times in the fourth quarter for that run to start. Wake Forest, you can't score 14 points and win football games. You created a turnover or two as well, so you did your part on defense. It's just offensively, I don't know, man. You can't have 2 7-figure coordinators. I mean, I guess you can. Dabo did, but again, I don't know if we're built like that. get a really good quarterback, I guess. Just keep going to that portal, man. Just keep going to that portal. Find a good quarterback. Mike Norvell has to fix the offense. Money can't fix the offense. Maybe through NIL, but maybe a new receivers coach. Love you, Ron. You're a Nole great, but that is just constantly underperforming segment. So maybe you switch there. Maybe that helps bring something to you. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, just get a better defensive coordinator and get a quarterback like Mackenzie Milton was in 18 to be your quarterback.
we could do a little history lesson, and I know that 1984 isn't 2021. It's 37 years later, but Florida State was not this bad, but Florida State was a perennial 6 to 8 win team from 81 to 87. But what happened was in 1984, I think, Florida went on probation. And back then, probation actually mattered. You couldn't be on TV. You couldn't go to bowls. Now, I don't know what probation does. You lose some you lose scholarships, but you lost scholarships and couldn't be on TV and couldn't go to bowl games. It wasn't just vacating nonsense vacating of wins. So in 1985, all of a sudden, Florida State starts landing these incredible recruiting classes, starting with the 85 one with Dion and Sammy and Pat Tomberlin and those guys. And that's how the dynasty started. Also, it coincided with the hiring of a defensive coordinator named Mickey Andrews. They both happened right around the same time, like a year apart. 1984 was Mickey's first year. 1985 was that first recruiting class that started the dynasty. So your hope is that you have a guy right now that can bring in similar type recruiting classes. Or maybe Florida goes on probation, whatever. But he's bringing in good. Right now, he is set to bring in a very good recruiting class. That in itself will help immensely. The number one thing, Bobby Bowden didn't become a great coach in 1987. He had great players. He was a good coach the whole time. He just got better stuff to work with. That's what you got to hope happens here. Even if Norvell doesn't end up being the answer to get you to championships, you have to get this roster better. You have to. So all your hope is in him bringing in players. Make the players better. And then maybe, it's probably not a Mickey out there, but maybe you upgrade at DC. But clearly, obviously, we all know the better your players are, the better chance you have to win. Right now, they're not coached well, and they don't have very good players. Well, let's see what they'd look like when they have good players, and maybe they're still not coached all that well, but with better players, they'd be, 2-1 right now. Even if we don't think these guys are a good coaching staff, if you had better players, you'd be 2-1 right now. Well, you could live with that for the time being. So, again, the point being, you've got to bring in players. And going back to Nebraska, I talked about this on Headlines, but like every time Florida State loses now, I get like 4 or 5 emails from Nebraska fans.
Really?
Yeah. What are you going to say now? At least Nebraska hadn't lost to Jacksonville State. Blah, blah. The point of that column, which I still 100% believe in, is that Nebraska will never get back, in my opinion, will never get back to championship level. It's just too hard. They're in too tough a predicament now in the landscape of college football in 2021. Florida State, with the right coach, can get back to a championship level. I'm not saying Norvell's the guy, but I don't think it would matter who Nebraska hired. It's still Nebraska. And it's still going to be hard to get really good players to leave their homes to go live in Lincoln. But at Florida State, it's a little different. So that's all. Let me put it this way. If Jimbo had been hired at Nebraska in 2010, Nebraska would not have won a national championship in 2013. They would have gotten 8 or 9 wins, maybe, because it's still Nebraska. But at Florida State, he was able to put together one of the all-time great teams in college football history. So that's the difference, I think. Florida State's ceiling is higher than Nebraska's. Right now, Nebraska's obviously a better team because they actually win some games.
I love our folks in Omaha and Lincoln, Grand Isle. You name it. Hastings. I love our Nebraskas. I love our
Ogallala.
Is that a real city in Nebraska?
Yeah, Cameron brought it up on Headlines. He had a buddy that's from Ogallala.
Okay. Yeah, I'm rooting for y'all. I really am. Like I do. I don't like seek out
too.
your box score, but when I see,
I even said in the column, like, I love Nebraska. They're great for college football, and those fans are just some of the maybe the best in the country, and they live and breathe and die with that program. I hope they get back to respectability. I don't see how it happens.
Future _Nole_Doc.
sorry, I don't see how they get back to championship level. They can get respectable quickly. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
Wake up! Kenny Dillingham has stated that the defenses are doing different tendencies and schemes with our team than with other teams. So why can't Kenny Dillingham do the same to our opponents? Show teams different tendencies or plays that we haven't played.
Yeah,
That's
it would
legal.
be cool, right? To
That's
hear
legal.
like a coach after a game be like, yeah, I know we gave up 45 points to that offense, but they did some things we hadn't prepared for. We hadn't seen that on film. It'd be cool if you heard the other coaches talking like that, like they did something they never do, and we just weren't prepared for it. But that hasn't happened so far through 3 games. And when you parse that comment he had about the man beaters and they came out and they did something they didn't normally do. If you read between the lines, I think we talked about this earlier in the week. It's hard to remember. A lot of that is like him saying without saying our receivers aren't getting open. Yeah. I'm calling the plays and our receivers aren't getting open to make the plays. But still, that's on you. It's your offense. Figure it out.
I'd like to talk to some coaches because I've always kind of been, when I was younger, like here in the last 5-6 years of being more invested in covering programs at a little bit more of a granular level, if you will, is that just teams are who they are. And it's about executing those plays so well that they don't even care if you know what's coming, but they're going to be able to execute it. They trust it so much that they're going to roll it out there no matter what. So I wonder what it says when other teams are playing Florida State, and I don't know, does Wake Forest think they're at a talent deficiency, so they have to come out and do something off script, off brand to trip up winless Florida State? Like, is that really what? If you're going to go with the okey doke on somebody and you're Wake Forest, wouldn't you save that for Clemson or I don't know, Virginia? I don't know, do they play Virginia or just that? So I wonder what it says for a staff doing that in a game. Like, do they not trust their players? Do they have to be sneaky? And why they would do it against a team like Florida State that hadn't really performed well up until that point.
Well, what do you say? They're a predominant zone team typically. They almost always play zone, but against them they played man
free. So everybody was manned up, and then a free safety pretty much playing center field.
Yeah. I don't know that says they had to do something different. I think the sad part of that statement is that Wake Forest knew that their corners didn't need to worry about getting beat by the Florida State receiving corps. Like, they could do something different and give them a new look and know that Florida State's wide receivers couldn't dominate their cornerbacks. Couldn't get open consistently enough for it to be a problem. And it wasn't. Pokey made 2 catches, but 1 touchdown. They beat the man that time. But other than that, nothing. There's nothing redeeming or positive at all about the passing game. I think that's what's scary is that the Wake DBs aren't worried at all about what these Florida State wide receivers are doing.
Also, it continues that thought. You would think that our coaching staff, with as detail obsessive as they supposedly are, should be prepared to handle any circumstance thrown at them and have the team prepared regardless. Fair. Next question. What do you think about hiring Will Muschamp as defensive coordinator, or would that mess up recruiting if Muschamp wanted to fire our assistant coaches? Keep up the awesome work. Go Noles. I don't know.
They could have Muschamp and Randy Shannon. Just get all these former Gators and Canes on the staff.
Former dogs.
Look, man, Muschamp has where is Muschamp now? He's at Georgia, right?
Is he?
I think he's like a analyst.
Okay, yeah. Him and Kirby, they got the band back together.
I think he took over for didn't the Alabama strength coach had a personal leave for a couple of weeks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So Muschamp became Muschamp became the 10th on-field coach, I think, until Cochran got back, and I think Cochran's back, but I'm not sure. Man, I'm not going to dismiss Will Muschamp. Right now Adam Fuller is your DC. Will Muschamp is certainly more proven than Adam Fuller. I brought this up on headlines, and they both scoffed at it. Not scoffed at this one. They scoffed when I asked if Travis Hunter could be a player coach. Like, is there any rule that can keep you from hiring an 18-year-old as a defensive coordinator, paying him the salary commensurate with that job, but then also he's a player? Like, is there a rule about being a player coach in college? So they scoffed at that one. But this one, I'm not. This one is a legitimate question. If they were going to make a change, and say it's December 9th, and Norvell, we'll throw just for the hypothetical because his name was brought up. Norvell knows that Muschamp will say yes, and that Muschamp has some ideas about the DB coach, but he's probably going to keep Woodson. Would Norvell go to Hunter and tell him beforehand, this is what I'm thinking about doing? Are you okay with it?
Ooh.
Like LeBron getting to choose his coach?
I totally know where you're going with that, and it's worth exploring and bringing up on a podcast like this. It has to talk about the same subject every single day. But no, I mean, you can't. You can't give an 18-year-old kid that much leverage. I wouldn't
Probably not. I agree. But I guess your point, you don't want to lose that 18-year-old.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So you at least you can't blindside.
He's the first call and everything, right? Like
yes.
Hey, we're about to hire this guy. This who's going to be. I'm going to beep him in right now. We're going to do a 3-way call. Like, hey, Travis, so happy to be your coach, man. Just want to let you know.
Yeah,
you
something
do that.
like that. Like, I don't think it has to be necessarily Travis Hunter saying, if you get rid, like the Hoosiers scene, coach stays, I stay, coach goes, I go. Number one, I don't think he'd do that with Adam Fuller. That'd be crazy, but maybe he would. He'd be like, Adam, you keep Adam Fuller, I'm coming. You get rid of him, I'm leaving. But because then, yes, you can't have Travis Hunter dictating who you're hiring as your next coordinator. But you can maybe at least float the idea, like, if we did this, do you hate Will Muschamp? Like, is he a guy you would never, you know what I mean? Like, without asking that question, like, is he a guy you could see yourself playing for? Because, buddy, this kid is the most important recruit in a decade at Florida State. I wholeheartedly believe that. Not just because of what he can do on the field, which is immense on both sides of the ball. I think he would literally start for you both ways next year against Duquesne. Like, I literally think he's starting at wide receiver and at corner. And he's just a flash player. He'd be one of the bigger names in the country immediately. But also what it says to the other recruits. And because Ira brought that up, he's like, look, what's the war on a defensive back, freshman defensive back? Is it even 0.3? And I'm like, yeah, it's not about his on-field production that's the wins above replacement. It's what he tells the other big-time recruits in this country and in this class and in the state of Florida. Like, if Travis Hunter can go to Florida State when they finish 2-10 or 3-9, then so can you, A.J. Duffy. So can you, Marvin Jones Jr. Like, you know what I mean? And kids from the 2023 class. It opens it up much like LaMarcus Joyner did in 2010. And Jeff Luke and those two guys, how they kind of spawned that class and into the next class, even as Florida State still wasn't back to where they wanted to be. Travis Hunter is that important. I mean, it's unprecedented. There's never been another time in history where the best player in the country went to a team in this kind of with this kind of record. So it's imperative you keep him. And I'm not saying he gets to dictate who his coach is, but I do think maybe he gets a little text or a call, like a feeler call, to see if that would be okay with him. I don't know. Just me speaking out. That's what Corey Clark would do. But again, Corey Clark would hire him as the DB's coach.
Cousin Joe Clark, 17, writes in, last year I asked the question, if we just shut down the football program down for 2020 and 2021, would the roster in 2022 be better in that scenario than what the actual 2022 roster is going to be? Both of you said the actual 2022 roster would be better than the one in this hypothetical. Do you still believe this?
Yes. Yeah, look, number one, I lived through it, man. SMU was a pretty darn good college football team program throughout the early part of my life, and then they got hit with the death penalty. I think it was 2 years. It might have just been 1 year, but they've never recovered. Like, they used to get. I mean, they paid out. There was a reason they got the death penalty, but they never started getting players again. And if you shut down the program, I get it. It's a hypothetical. It wasn't going to happen.
They're rolling now, though, man. Sonny Dykes, Jim Levitt got them rolling, man. That's
sure. Well, rolling, different
in the AAC,
different meaning, but
that'll get him a head coaching job somewhere. Good.
Right? Sure. Yeah. But I think there are some pieces here that could be solid to good. Like Kevin Noles, Kevin Noles, Shaheem Brown, maybe McClendon, maybe Deloach, Malik McLean. 3 linemen that might be – you have 3 linemen that might block for you for 5 years with Maurice Smith, Robert Scott, and Darius Washington. By the time 2024 rolls around, they might be an actual good offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, they might be, if they can stay healthy, obviously, they could be a good offensive line. And you're hoping that this recruiting class stays intact, and you have that influx of talent too that I don't know that you would have if you just had not played football for 2 years.
Yeah, what's the plus
I guess
side?
The plus side, I think, is that they wouldn't see the record.
Okay.
You would just be like, look, we just canceled because of COVID, but trust me, I can really coach. And I got this program destined. Kind of like what Willie sold, the hope, that first recruiting class.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't have to then explain why the product looks so bad. So that's the downside, is like you wouldn't suffer. Would you rather go 0-0 than 2-10? That's the hypothetical. And when you think about it like that, you're like, well, I guess 0-0 isn't too bad.
Well, yeah, but again, though, they're
I get to see my kid play more baseball in the fall.
Yeah. They're hanging on to these kids, and I don't know. I mean, check out the recruiting chat we did with Michael Langston to see if I asked him whether or not if there's going to be defections at any point. But they're hanging on to that class so far. So, yeah, I mean, the record hasn't had an adverse effect
it's also
yet.
It really helps in this instance. It's hurt Florida State quite a bit here in recent years. But in this instance, you think the early recruiting period helps, the signing day, because that's 2 less months of them being told what a horrible mistake they're making.
But it also lets it breathe. It's also the scab's not as, the wound's not as fresh. It's like, shoot, December, whatever it is going to be, you might be 2 weeks removed from getting blasted by Florida and going 2-10. And it's like no one's going to want to sign at that point.
Yeah, but I think the record's the record, right? Like, they know these guys, they've done a pretty good job, the recruits anyway, of talking about how
setting expectations.
Right. Yeah. So they're still 2-10. Whether they sign in February or December, they're still 2-10. I think the positive of not being recruited against for those 2 months outweighs the negative of it being fresh that they just got beat by 25 points by Florida or whatever. So yeah, man, this is one of the most important recruiting classes in probably Florida State history. Honestly, it really is, because where they are right now, they've never been, not since any of us have cared about Florida State football. If they lose half this class, then man, it's you just start you really do start to wonder, okay, how and when can this turn around? And clearly this guy can't do it, because the one positive he had going for him was recruiting, and then half this class just left. But if he can get these guys on campus, a top 5-ish recruiting class with some real NFL potential and star power, that should feed itself. And then again, I'm telling you, next year, if they go 7-6 or 6-7, the big time players they're recruiting, we'll see, okay, they made improvement. I see all those guys that they recruited in the 2021 class are making a difference. They can play. They're young, but they can play. I want to go be a part of that rebirth. It's a really important class, man. It's kind of all that's left that's important over these next 3 months. Keeping that class together is priority number one.
I wish I had a DeLorean and just go back in time and show 2013 Corey Clark, like,
man,
this is what you're talking about. Look at your face. Like, what happened to me? What's going on in the future? Oh,
why are you living alone? Why are you in that empty house all by yourself? What has happened? Yeah.
The Walking Knoll 01. Wake up, guys. It's Walker from Magee, Mississippi. Shout out Magee, Mississippi, home of the Mangum family. Jake Mangum, his father, played for the Bears.
Yeah.
Uncle Chris Mangum, longtime tight end for the Carolina Panthers. Jermaine Jones from Magee originally. One of Steve McNair's kids went to high school at Magee High School. So stand up, Trojans. They were state champs a few years ago. Call me an optimist. I don't care. I'm with Corey on this one. Norvell isn't going anywhere for the near future, so we might as well believe in him and support him. We don't have to like him. We can call for his head each Sunday from now till the end of the season, but I don't think that would get us anywhere. I think we need to stick with him. It's going to be a long, ugly road, but I think he's our best chance to succeed in the next 2 to 3 years. Any reason we haven't started running more RPOs? If we can't block good for long pass plays and we still feel the Sean gone backfield is our best option, Wouldn't this create open gaps? We need to run the ball more. Thanks to you both, Corey and Aslan, for all you do. I like watching our Noles play, but I live for those post-game wrap-ups. Ooh.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know how far back I'm going to be standing this week for that. You be in the other parking lot.
I'll shoot it from the press box. You guys can go on the field.
Yeah, well, I'll be on the
press
yeah.
box.
That's a good point. Yeah, we'll be on the field. You shoot from the press box. Yeah, the RPO. They haven't done a ton of that. It doesn't appear. It's hard to always know for sure, though, right? Unless you ask about a specific play, whether it really was an RPO. But it doesn't seem like the P has been a big part of the RPO this season. And maybe it should be. I don't know. Hopefully they've figured something out this week. They pivoted to something they do well. They found out what they do well, or do well enough to at least put up 4 touchdowns against Louisville and see what happens. But yeah, I think I don't want people to think that I'm not out here on a mountaintop screaming that Mike Norvell is the answer. I think that's come through these last couple of weeks. I'm up here screaming on the mountaintop that it doesn't matter what we think of him. He's not leaving. And, I just, that's a very good point he made. Like, what's the point of being, I don't know, wringing your hands so much about this when there's nothing's going to change. We all just want the guy to be better. We want this team to be better. But I don't know that, I just don't see the consternation, and I've been guilty of it, trust me, of all these losses that have stacked up. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Well,
I don't even know what I'm saying.
If he was in Willie's position, I don't think there'd be – actually, I don't even know there. They're just – nothing is going right. Everybody hates everybody. Hasn't been anything good to feel about in a long time.
No, it's hard, man. It's not like
we need a healing, man. We need a healing.
Well, it would be cool. Like, it would be if Florida State could somehow, and I'm not saying you should. I get it. It's a bad product, but if Florida State fans could actually show up and cheer for this team, even though they look like this, what a great signal that would be. Just a great sign to recruits and just other fans. Like, you know what? We're not going to be Tennessee. We're not going to scream for everybody's head after 12 games or 15 games. We are going to stick with it with this guy and truly believe that he's going to turn it around, even if it's like, Heaven's Gate. What was that thing called where they wore the sneakers?
Yeah, I think it was Heaven's Gate.
They believed in that dude. I don't think they made it to the spaceship, but they believed, and we don't want it to turn out that way. But, it's like there's really no other option. There's really no other option right now because he's almost certainly not leaving, and you don't want it to spoil where people are booing loudly every time they lose, every time there's an interception thrown. You don't want it to get ugly.
Where are we though, Corey? I'm sorry to interrupt.
But I can understand the ugliness. Trust me, if I was paying the kind of money some people have to pay to come to these games and watch this team, I could understand being really upset with the product.
I feel like I had a bad read on Willie. I thought that it was a vocal minority that wanted to get rid of him in terms of numbers. Like, there wasn't 80%. I thought of the fan base was like, all right, I believe in him. It was only 20% that were like, we got to get rid of him. But then you're like, oh no, man, it's worse than that. And I was talking about late 18, not even talking about 2019. I look at our YouTube comments and our Twitter too much, so that's not real life. Twitter and YouTube are not real life. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, the stuff you'll win on there, you can't win in real life on. But I mean, what is it? I mean, it's probably maybe 10% of the fan base is genuinely authentic. Fire him now.
Oh, I think it's more than that, and
really?
Okay. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think most people not fire him now, but maybe not fire him now because they understand the reality of the situation, but more like, well, this guy ain't it either.
Yeah, but that's different though. I'm there too.
You're right.
I'm there too. I don't. This doesn't, to me. It's not adding up to being a winning sort of solution here down the road. But again, I'm going to be my whole metaphor about my child, my imaginary child, and their significant other. That I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work out, but I'm still going to be nice at dinner. I'm not going to create a scene every time.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
What if Coburn came out after the Louisville game, win or lose, and said, look, guys, I know there's a lot of noise in the system. I know they're 0-4 or 1-3. Either way, it's not good enough. But understand me. Read my lips. Trust this. He is going to be here through at least the 2023 season. Ugh. We are going to give him at least 4 years, and 4 years with his players to see if he can turn this around. That's the only way for Florida State to move forward. Instead of churning out coach after coach every 2 years, he is going to be here for at least 4. So you can stop with the emails and stop with the phone calls. He's going to be here for 4 years, and then we'll see. You think that would help at all or hurt?
Help who? Like help calm everybody down?
Help fans. Yes, just help fans understand that it's going week to week asking who should be the coach and are we going to get a new coach and this guy isn't it. If they just came out and say, look, here we even wrote it down. We cannot fire him. We rewrote the contract. We cannot fire him until after the 2023 season. So just calm down and try to enjoy the sport and try to enjoy what he's doing. And let's all reconvene after 30 games, 35 more games, and we'll see where we are. And at that point, if it's not where we want it, of course changes will be made. But we should hopefully still have Travis Hunter for another year.
Hey, everybody! You want to win? We all want to win, but you can win. The football team hopefully will win, but you can win at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT. Your first deposit will be doubled if you're a first-time customer at mybookie.ag. If you've been a member before, you can join their Week 3 NFL Survivor contest. Go over there, pick your winner for this week, and survive in advance. I don't know who I would pick in there. But this is the winners segment of the show, also maybe called the losers section. So just these are the picks that I would offer out to everybody. Liberty Syracuse, 53.5. Take the over. Notre Dame and Wisconsin. The Badgers giving 6.5. Take those points and take Notre Dame. That's what I like. I like that one. And then in my 3-pack here, winding up our 3-pack, Illinois-Purdue, you're giving Brett Bielema 11 points? Disrespectful. Take Illinois. I don't want to say take them straight up, but take 11 points. So Illinois plus 11, take Notre Dame plus 6.5, and then hammer that over on Liberty and Syracuse 53.5. MyBookie.ag, use that promo code WARCHANT. All right, Corey, we have transitioned you to a telephone because of technical issues that are beyond your control, my control, and pretty much the entire universe. So we've got 3 questions. Let's see if we can make it tight and right. Seminole Nation 1474, wake up! Hey guys, Tim in Indiana here. Corey, wanted to let you know when you said FSU was the only Power 5 team without a win, that is not correct. Arizona is also 0-3, and they lost to a directional school, Northern Arizona, last week. Northern Arizona, they're the Lumberjacks. That's an FCS school. Just an FYI, we are not the worst Power 5 team after all. I really think the 2 atrocious calls against us, roughing the kicker and that late hit out of bounds, just killed us. Those calls changed the trajectory of the first half. What can be done about officiating in college football? It is the worst. Did you see Penn State Auburn and that debacle? The mighty SEC. He put quotes around mighty SEC. Their refs caused Penn State to punt on 3rd down because they said it was 4th down even when the down marker said 3rd. Thanks for all the great content on WarChant. Keeps me in the loop here in Hoosier land. P.S. Not all of Indiana sucks as much as South Bend. Also a fan of Trench Talk. It's great. Thanks, Seminole Nation 1474. Corey, can we just surrender to the fact that they all suck, man? All referees, well, maybe not NFL, but college football, they're not out to get us. Everybody gets got. Did you see Memphis, Mississippi State? Mississippi State downed a punt. They downed the punt, but they didn't flip the ball to the ref, and they ran away from it after they downed it, and the Memphis guy picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown, and they let it stand. It's just there's just tomfoolery everywhere. Just what it is, what it is. I don't know. What can we do, though? Is there anything we can do to fix it, Corey?
Yeah, those are all good questions. And yes, when you lose a game 35-14, it doesn't look well. It doesn't look great to blame the officials because you probably lose anyway. But those are 2 monster calls that they missed, just monster calls. And this team isn't good enough to overcome awful officiating. And I don't know what you do. I don't know that, I think Norvell not losing his mind. Like at some point on that one, especially the Jermaine Johnson one, lose your mind. What does it matter? They're going to score anyway. If they flag you for unsportsmanlike, fine. At least you're losing your mind righteously. Like, remember, so this, and it didn't end up mattering either way, but the call against Florida State against Wake Forest, in my opinion, was as bad as the one against Notre Dame in the first game, where that should have been a roughing and they called running into. And Brian Kelly lost his mind. Rightfully so, because he was really mad about what I thought was a bad call. Norvell could stand to do that. The Jermaine Johnson one is a joke. It's a joke. The kid falls down. Some people make some noise. The ref that doesn't even see it can't see it because there's people blocking him. Big, huge football players are blocking him. Throws the flag. Like, how do you not lose your mind? Like, what do you do in that situation, Aslan? I was trying to think of what I would have done. Maybe take my players off the field. Like, just lose. Remember the minor league coach that crawled up to the mound and then used the rosin bag as a grenade?
Yes.
I would almost lose my mind because it's such a big call, and it makes no sense. Like, it's like, oh well, it's just one call. Well, it's a horrible call that maybe changed the complexion of the game, and you got two of them on the road in Winston-Salem, where referees by and large haven't been great to Florida State over the years anyway, pushing balls forward and whatnot. So, I don't know what you can do. Officiating is bad. I think you could make it a full-time job, but they're not going to do that. They don't even do that with NFL referees. So I don't know. But the ACC doesn't even address it. Like, how do you not, did that guy get reprimanded? The guy that they called a personal foul for a player that tripped while the other player was trying to hold him up, and he didn't see it anyway. That's what bothers me about it. He didn't even see it anyway. But yes, officiating is bad everywhere.
Yeah, maybe if we get the autonomous 32-64 thing, then they can maybe hire the referees and keep them smaller and more scrutinized. So we'll see if that ever works out. Nick Redivius, I think that's how you say your name, Nick Redivius. Aslan, Corey, you guys are awesome. Keep up the great work in these trying times. First-time questioner here. You got to tell us where you're from usually, Nick, but we'll let it slide. I'd like to hear your opinions on my perspective. I actually think 2021 is better than 2020, at least the team is. We're better at offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, and running back. We just don't have the wins. Last year we shouldn't have won anything, but the wild card was Jordan Travis's legs. Now that we don't have that, for whatever reason, we look worse on the scoreboard and the win-loss columns. Norvell and the staff are developing talent. It's just marginal change on a very bad team. Do you all agree with this perspective? Why or why not? Go ahead, Corey.
I can buy that. I can buy what you're selling there. I guess that they are better defensive line. I don't know about linebacker. Receivers, I mean, look, they're just not very good either season. And it's hard to make the case that they're a better team when they lost to Jacksonville State after a year where they beat them by 21 points. But I like the positivity. I like the optimism. Roll with it. I'm with you. In 2022, hopefully they'll be better than 2021, and the record will actually show it.
Go Noles, drink that refreshing DeLuna coffee, eat at Zaxby's. Also, Aslan, I think Family Force 5's Radiator or Cray Button would be great lead-in music for the podcast. All right, I'll check it out. Yes, this team is more talented than last year's team. I don't know why they can't win. That's almost worse, isn't it? But maybe it is Jordan Travis's legs, the great equalizer, if you will. We close it out in Hawaii. Ralph, Spartan 071. Aloha, guys. How's it? Not going to lie, I stopped watching the game last week at halftime. Can't keep torturing myself. This program has kept me going in some really difficult moments, so I would like to do the same. The coaches keep saying we were getting better, we were doing some things correct, and even harvesting bamboo. Can you honestly ask them to set aside coach speak and simply point to some things we fans can latch on so we can believe them when they say these type of things? To be honest, I just don't see progress. Mahalo, go Warchant, oorah. I wish I would have seen this a few days ago, Ralph. I would have asked that question. But I wouldn't have been like, hey, set aside the coach speak, Mike. I would just be like, hey, man, like, what are some things you're seeing that you feel are rooms of or areas of growth compared to last year? What about you, Corey? If you had to be asked, if you were up in front of it, would it be all the things that Nick just talked about? Better defensive line, better offensive line? What are some things you think are tangible, subjective things that are better at?
Say the defense is better, but it's marginal, and that's about it. I don't know what else you could say. I mean, the defensive line, yeah, is better, but the two of those guys are senior transfers. So I don't know how you really sell that to your fan base that we're getting better up front when the two guys that are making it good up front are going to be leaving. So yeah, the defense as a whole though is playing better. So maybe that's what you sell. But hopefully after Saturday, man, when they put up 50 on Louisville, we'll be talking about the offense again and Trayshawn Ward's late run to a Heisman. Let's hope that happens, man. Maybe they put up 50 on Louisville and we're all happy the next time we reconvene.
All right, game prediction. I'm going to say Louisville 34, Florida State 24. What do you got, Corey?
Florida State 31, Louisville 30.
Oh, his call just broke up. It crumbled. We don't even know what he picked, but that's part of the mystery. Seminole Nation 1474. Nick, sorry we kind of breezed through your questions. We're on a bit of a time crunch. I got to do some other stuff for this website. I bounce a lot of stuff. I have a lot of balls that I'm juggling or whatever. No excuse, though. Bring it next time. We'll post it. We'll kick it around a little bit longer. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.